Yeah, I know that he went to all 50 states. He was trying to get what $1,000 in every state and make $50,000 to donate.
Somewhere in that time frame, April, May.
Yeah. So that's pretty. Yeah, I know that he went to all 50. We are live, guys. We are live.
Oh.
Welcome. I know that he went to all 50 states. Is trying to. Welcome to Clear Prop. And make 50 states is trying to mute me. Shh. All right, so we are streaming live audio. Hello, everyone. Welcome. And we are streaming audio live. Welcome, everyone. Man, we got a bunch of people in here right now. We got myself, PPG Grandpa, a.k.a. Sean Simons. I mean, either way. I mean, Sean Simons, a.k.a. PPG Grandpa, whatever. We got Linda Anderson. Hello, Linda. We got Brian Waller in the house. Waller in with the pig. What's up, Waller? We got Dulo, Tommy Mosley, and never trust that skinny chef Shane. Matter of fact, I think that he put on a filter, and now look at him. Look at him. He's skinny and handsome. What the hell? That's awesome.
And I work at Home Depot now.
What's up, Home Depot?
Oh, yeah.
And our guest today has not made it yet. Harley, the guy that made the 50x challenge at 50xchallenge.info. He has not made it here, so he will be here as soon as possible. So no worries. No worries. There's so many other things that we can talk about. Matter of fact, we were talking before the show here went live. We're like, well, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about XCs and doing some cross countries. Tommy and I actually did a couple cross countries lately. And Brian Waller and Never Trust a Skinny Chef Shane said that they never done a cross country before. And no, that's not true. Cross country is when you take off and land someplace that you didn't take off from. So Shane actually took off and landed in a field because of
out of fuel. Who knew that paramotors run on gas? I didn't.
This guy
ran out of fuel. And then Brian Waller, he wanted to try to kick kick.
Straw's cheaper.
He decided he wanted to see what an ambulance ride felt like instead of going back to his LZ. I'm glad that you're okay. Show us, Brian.
Thank you.
Show us your new footwear.
Uh-oh. Let me see if I can hike it up here for you. Oh, it weighs a lot more than my cat. It's about a 20-pound removable boot. But the key word there is it's removable. I can take it off and go swimming. So
how much hardware you got in there? In your
just one plate with 5 screws in it total, and then
just one plate, 5 screws, a couple staples, steel rod, some titanium. No big deal.
The plate's about 5 inches long, and the screws to hold it in, it probably won't come out, maybe ever. But there's also a 3-inch screw going straight through the ankle of my fibula and tibula. And anyway, that's supposed to come out here in about 4 or 5 weeks. They told me I can go ahead and start walking on it now as long as I felt comfortable. So hopefully I'll be flying. My plan is to be elk hunting in Colorado the month of September. So we'll see how that works.
So
you should ask them to save the hardware when they pull it out, if they pull it out. I've got a little Corona bag or a Crown Royal bag of titanium screws from when I messed up my knee.
How many do you have?
Like you, it was just one plate with 4 screws, a couple staples, and a couple pins.
Gotcha.
So titanium. and they would just it's medical waste. They can't do anything with it. They would have to melt it down and recycle it or something or whatever. So if you ask them to keep it, they should give it to you because it's technically yours.
Wait, yeah, I mean, I already paid for it, so might as well take it.
Yeah, you did pay for it, FYI.
I guarantee it.
One way or another.
Yeah, you just put it in an enclosed like casing and then hang it up in your fifth wheel, and be like a conversation piece when the ladies come over, like, hey, yeah, look at this happened to me. And then they'll be like, oh.
What happened is you saw a young child in danger, and so you swooped out of the sky.
There you go. There
You know,
you
you
go.
landed on the hay bale, and you picked the
I
crocodile
love
to
that.
protect the
I
child.
actually saved
Yeah, yeah.
schools of children
There you
with
go.
that
Yeah.
hay bale.
You get what I'm saying.
You couldn't see it in the video, but that's what happened.
Mhm.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That'll work. Yeah,
Oh man, y'all crack me up.
we try.
We'll have fun in the show, even if we don't have our guest of honor, Harley.
Harley.
Hey, Paramotor Crazy is in the chat. How's it going? Richard is in the chat. How you doing?
Oh, tell him to jump on. Join in.
So
Get on the Zoomy.
howdy.
Yeah.
Trying to type this.
I want to know how everybody's weekend was. Get them all on here.
You know what? We don't have our guest. Let's go ahead and just let's just invite everybody.
Yeah, just bring them on. And then when Harley shows up, then just throw them in there and we're all together or whatever.
Exactly. So the room is, there's the room number, and the password is very complicated and complex. So make sure that you put it in correctly.
There you go.
It's pineapples.
Pineapple.
Well, all right. Since we don't have an official show, Shane gave a shout out on his barbecue season another day, so I'm gonna give a shout out on some beer. I have a fan, I guess you would call it. I've never had a fan before. Guy's been watching my YouTube videos for a good year at least and commenting on them. And
Wow.
we've been back and forth on Facebook, whatever. And he saw me on this show during my introduction show drinking beer. Imagine that. But he wanted to know what I was drinking, and I told him we started talking about IPAs and stuff. So he's up in Syracuse, New York area, and this is actually comes from Massachusetts. It's called Greenhouse Treehouse Brewing Company, and he sent me a 6-pack of variety of beers.
Wow.
So, pretty cool dude to do that. So Jim, thank you, sir. I'm gonna try this one right now.
That's awesome.
That's cool. There you
Yeah,
go.
I like beer. That's my favorite thing about going to Colorado when I first started working back in 2004. They sent us out there to test the highways, how loud they were. And in Alabama back then, they didn't even, draft beer was illegal. You couldn't buy any alcohol on Sundays. So you go out to Colorado and there's a brewery on every corner. It was awesome. Of course, they got other stuff out there now.
There you go.
Did someone send to Harvey a private message?
That's good.
Harley?
I PM'd Harley, yes.
I sent him a
just said,
text.
hey.
I sent him a message. I put it on Facebook that we're starting in X amount of time. Haven't heard from him, but you know, it's no big deal. I mean, you know that a lot of people get busy, so it's no big deal. We have a big crew in here. Not to say that y'all are big. I'm just saying that the crew is,
Sure.
you got a big crew and large crew. There we go. And we decided that we're going to talk about cross country, since we don't have Harley in here right now, especially since he did the biggest cross country. We want to talk about our little minuscule cross countries that we have done, that's just very dwarfing Harley's 50 states. I can't even imagine. Let's see, how many states have I flown in? Arkansas, Oklahoma. That's it. So I did 2 so far. Who did more than two flights?
I can match you.
Okay, where'd you go?
I've flown in Ohio, obviously that's where I'm from, and then I've flown in Florida, which is hot and sticky, but it's awesome.
That's how B count as that, Sean?
Absolutely.
I don't know what Tommy said. It sounds like he's losing signal, but I did go to the SIV course, so I kind of technically flew free flying
I
over.
think you did. I think that counts. That's 3.
That's 3. Okay, 3 out of 50. Got to keep on moving. So
47 to go.
yeah, Shane, have you flown any place other than just in your home state, or have you flown other places?
Nope. Only my home state. I will be going to Ohio In October. I think it's October. The end of
Yep.
September, beginning of October. And that's been it. Other than different counties, I've flown Wauchula, I've flown Avon, and over there at Aviators at Lake Wales. I'm going back to Lake Wales for the SIV course with Sean.
Sweet. Brian, did you say that you just flew in your hometown or your home state?
Well, yeah, Alabama, I've flown here, I don't know, 40 something times. And then my first 26 flights were down in Lake Wales, Florida, down at Aviator. So I've flown 2 states so far.
That seems to be the standing. Tommy, I know that you've flown here and you also flown in Oklahoma on the mountain. Is there any other places that you've flown that I didn't know about?
Nope, that's it.
So 2 states seem to be about the average. That's pretty neat. Anybody planning on doing a cross country and starting in one state and going to another state?
Yes.
You are. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the last 3 years, I've been living out of my camper and I go out for a couple months at a time. Coronavirus kind of slowed my schedule down, just like a lot of other people. But yeah, as soon as my leg gets where I can foot launch again, I'm definitely going out for a few weeks here, a month here, and I'm planning to go to New England, Central United States, Ohio, Indiana area. I haven't done Central U.S., haven't been to Louisiana, but I've made friends in the sport all over the country so far. I've got dozens of states that I have friends in, West Coast to East Coast, and I'm definitely going to fly with people, man. I'm coming to a town near you one day soon.
I hope you get over here to Arkansas and you go fly with us. There's a lot of hay bales that we can go and fly around, but this time that's it, right? Tommy, do you plan on doing anything crazy, like going to another state or flying in one state, going to another state, or what are your plans, Tom?
I've got millions in my head, but I don't know where to start. So I've always wanted to go to the Badlands. I've always wanted to go to Moab. I've always wanted to go to a lot of these places. The guy we had on last week, those canyons that he flies in, that looks amazing. So list is too big to really number, but I would really like to do, I think Oklahoma and Arkansas right now there's so much to explore here. I'm happy. I'm very happy.
You know what we could do, Tommy? We could start off over here in Arkansas and fly over to Oklahoma.
Oh, that wouldn't be hard at all. Go from Fort Smith to Tallahena.
Mm-hmm. We can start off over at Fort Smith. They got the sod farm up there. That's the one that he teaches on. So we can go from that sod farm and fly all the way to Hefner Mountain.
That'd be a blast. That'd be fun.
That'd be a long trip. JP,
What's up?
do you plan on going on any long distance XCs? Do you want to? What's your take on cross countries?
I enjoy them as a thing. Yeah, I'm always a little bit nervous to attempt without ground support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because these 2-stroke motors, they're great, but they don't have the reputation for reliability that it would be nice if they were 100% and you knew that you could depend on it. You could fly wherever and know that you're going to make it back. And, so I'm always a little bit weary to doubt and stuff like that. But just last night I met up with a couple guys and we flew, I don't know, 10, 15 miles out, went to see a reservoir, and we were going to stop by a quarry, but ended up not doing that. And it was just, man, words cannot describe the type of flight that we had last night. Like, it was just, the weather was perfect and beautiful. The temperature, the sunset was, it's, to describe it is just a waste, because you got to get out there and experience it for yourself. It's breathtaking and life-changing, and just the control you have, just dangling your feet in the air, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 feet, whatever you want. It's just, Fantastic. And I'm gonna stop there because it looks like
Yeah.
we have an
check it
addition to
out.
the group.
Looks like what?
We have an
Oh,
addition to the group.
Harley's joined us. How's it going, Harley?
What's up, Harley?
can anybody hear him?
He's got his mic. He's got his mic muted, Harley.
He sent a text that said, "Hi, everyone."
Okay.
All right. Now you can hear me.
There, what's up, buddy?
Hey, there he is.
Sorry, guys. I put in Eastern time in my.
All right, that's exactly what I said happened. I called that. No worries, buddy. Glad you made it.
Thank you.
Where are you casting from?
I am. Yes, you can hardly see. Let's see if I can turn my phone. I'm at a San Martin airport, which is just south of San Jose. So
California.
no, a little further south than Morgan Hill, and then of course you've got Gilroy, which is known for garlic, heading on the way down to Monterey.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, and I'm so sorry I'm late.
Yeah. No worries.
It's all
worries,
good,
brother.
it's all good. We just
Yeah,
been all
we-
just been hanging out.
Yeah, we were actually talking about cross countries and what we thought, and what have we done? And we've done maybe 2 or 3 states. Our longest cross country was not very long, but I think you got us beat on everything. So you went to 50 different states. Were you able to raise your $50,000?
I raised what sort of added up to be about 20,000. So not as much. When COVID started to sort of get extreme and everyone is struggling, I didn't even feel right about sort of talking too much about the whole raising money side of things. So I pretty much from the time I left Florida all the way through, I really didn't raise very much money. There were a little bit here and there that came in.
But still, $20,000 for charity, that's a lot of money to be able to raise. So what charities or charity have you decided to send this money to?
Yeah, so the whole goal all along was just to inspire people to donate to charities of their choice. So I didn't actually define where the money was going, and it was actually much easier to manage because then it's kind of open to everybody to do what they wanted to do. So I forget what the total was in actual cash and so forth. But for example, there was an angel flight, which by itself is valued at around about $10,000. There's a doctor who went to Guatemala and donated some of his time, and that was worth several thousand. It was kind of cool because a fair number of people donated cash towards like Resurgence, Wounded Warriors, and a few like that. So that was pretty cool.
That is absolutely amazing. What we're going to try to do tonight is to ask you questions that you haven't been asked before, because I know that you've been on many different podcasts and talked a lot over these last, how many months has it been?
So it took me 7 months and 7 months and 2 days or something like that to do the trip. Obviously, I could have done it a lot faster in terms of trying to set a record, but a lot of it was really about seeing the country. And so being the first person to do that, it was kind of fun to just take my time and do everything. And then, of course, with COVID shutting things down, particularly towards the end of the trip, like I really did want to go to Yellowstone. And so I did slow things down by almost a month. So it's very easy to do in 6 months. I would say if you're really just trying to go ahead and fly in every state and you're just trying to knock them out, you could obviously do it much quicker, but then you're going to lose out on the interactions. And that was for me, the biggest game changer that I don't think anyone really asked me about was when I started. First of all, when I went to Hawaii, no one knew what I was doing. No one even cared. And then I was lucky enough to be on Robert Michael's show, and I had no idea the number of people that was starting to watch. And that was when I got back to California. But it really wasn't until I got to Arkansas and started to, you know, tell somebody, hey, or just put it out there in the groups that I was going from one state to the next state, and then people started calling me instead of me having to reach out to the different groups. And I mean, I'm still nobody. I'm surprised anyone remembers my name still, but it's been absolutely amazing just, you know, how many people did start to reach out. And obviously COVID changed that quite a lot, but the experience of meeting so many paramotorists across the country is so incredible. Fly-ins, of course, are great, but this was a way to, you know, a lot of people said to me, what are you going to do? Well, I'm like, really, I should be just starting over, because going to fly a lot of these places at the best time of year with the best weather. You know, there's so many cool places that I'm just dying to go back to. You know, there's some flights that I did that they were great. I don't really want to try them again because they were tough. But yeah, it's just, you know, it does. Thank you for asking the question, because it's, you know, it really does make me happy and excited. And remember that
I have a question for the guest. Out of all the places and people that you've met, has anybody ever decided to take you out to lunch and then make you pay for the meal?
What?
Do we know if he's even watching?
Yes, he actually asked the question, so I'm just paraphrasing, if you will.
Yeah, only one guy.
Just one? I mean, there's always that one guy that will say, hey, let's go to dinner or to lunch, and oh, by the way, I don't have my wallet.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on something, so at some point I'm just going to show up on his doorstep and be like, hey, dude, you're taking me out for lunch now.
Sean, in case you were wondering, that was paramotor crazy. So yeah, it's a inside joke, I guess, or on his show. Yet he had him on. He had the guests on, and that was a big. He was so embarrassed that he asked him to go out to lunch, was going to pay for his lunch and everything, and then gets there and doesn't have his wallet. Like total, just I couldn't imagine.
I think they only took cash, which was the problem. And you know, I love David to pieces. You know, but it's a standing inside joke now.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I just looked on the chat and I saw that. I'm like, okay, I got it now. That's hilarious. Here's some questions that I have. For example, I'm starting to do some XCs, and you know, I want to explore a little bit more, and I'm worried about, you know, the possibility of the motor going out. When you planned this, did you plan on just like taking off and going around certain areas? Were you planning on taking off on one LZ and ending up someplace else? Was there any ground support going on? And how long have you been flying before you did this?
So I'll try and answer that backwards. I've been flying about 5 years. I like to joke now and say, I don't think I actually really learned how to fly until the trip, because I'm not the same pilot that I was, and I've learned to fly in a way that I never thought I ever would. In terms of, you know, the general plan was just to find a place that I could go and fly at. And, you know, sometimes, yes, I kind of said, oh, well, it's particularly in the first 2 states, like I thought I'd go fly down with some friends down in Southern California, and then that didn't come together. And I ended up going to Rio Vista Airport, which I had, sorry, plane taken off. And I got to fly there, and I'd been meaning to fly there for a long time. Up in Nevada, I found a tiny little airport pretty close to a friend of mine that I was able to go use, and was largely an unused airport. And then just stopped off in Winnemucca, and then with Jeremy Huff, we found this place on the edge of the road in where was it? Oregon, Southeast Oregon. Didn't realize I would get to fly under the Perrine Bridge Sean Schumer and Miles Dasher. It was just kind of like driving along and figuring it out as I went along. And that honestly, when I first started planning, pick all the LZs and where I would fly from point A to point B and not knowing anybody, it was really a very daunting task. And I did it 100% unsupported. I took a spare engine and a spare frame, and I didn't have all the spares that I actually did need. But overall, it went incredibly well. And so that was part of the adventure, and it was just figuring it out as I went along.
Were you thinking about certain type of fuel? Did you bring a certain type of two-stroke oil? Did you do a lot of research on fuel and oil and stuff before you went? I'm only asking this because there's been a lot of discussion about what's the best two-stroke oil and the fuel to use. So what kind of fuel and two-stroke did you use throughout your 50-state adventure?
Yeah, so I'm from California, right? So everything's got ethanol in it. So I went as standard as I could per what Vitarazi were suggesting, which was modal 710 and the highest octane that you can get. I typically buy branded fuel. My paramotor gets better fuel than my truck does, which truck's $70,000, brand new, and it's not even a year and a half old now. So I don't skimp on fuel and oil for my paramotor. I did, when I got to Wyoming, I was given some Model 800, and I like the oil a lot. I'm pretty happy with Modal, but the one thing I did notice in hotter temperatures, which here in California I get a lot of, my motor, for whatever likes to be a little bit richer, particularly near sea level. And the 710, my motor runs just very slightly cooler. It's not like it's a huge difference, but whereas in cold temperatures where and at altitude where I'm wanting to sort of reduce my mix. The other thing is I don't mess with my screws as much as I used to. I tend to actually mix fuel specifically for the type of flying that I'm doing. And so at altitude and in colder temperatures, going to 66 or 67, I'm typically running closer to about 50 to 55 or 60, depending on the kind of flying that I'm doing on the Modal 800. So it's a choice. I don't know where I'm going to land up. My motor's got about 170 hours on it now. I'm almost out of my 800. I've got a fair amount of 700 left. So I'll probably run this engine out until I do the rebuild. And then I am inclined to stay on the 800 on the rebuild, just because I like the fact that it has a much higher temperature or lower temperature before it will pop off. A lot of other people I'm talking to like Sabre and a few of these others where you can ultimately thin your mix, and Vitarazi overall, from what I understand, I mean, I don't have the specs for it, but they're now suggesting anything from 60 to 8, as high as 80 to 1. Of course, when Tucker did Icarus, right, I think he did Sabre for that because he could carry very little oil. So I think if you're going to do a cross country and you're trying to manage the weight of fuel that you're going to take with you and your access to fuel, you're probably going to make slightly different decisions. And, with some other stuff, I'll talk about it if you guys ask, but I have some ideas of something I want to go do. And I am, the part of the planning that I'm doing is to what we can get under the various different conditions out of oils and fuels.
Absolutely. Tell us what you think, because I'm relatively new, about 8-9 months into this. I think that I've peaked over 125 hours so far. I'm going to be going to a second SIV course. I really enjoy this a lot. The big thing, though, it really seems to be is fuel, mixtures, ratio, the different types of two-strokes out there. So if you guys are watching and you're on the chat, I've seen that a couple people put on there. What kind of two-stroke do you prefer, and what kind of gas do you use? But Harley, go ahead and tell us what you're gonna talk about.
Well, so I'm considering doing, you know, cross country coast to coast, and it's a little more involved than just that, which I won't talk about. But to be able to achieve that goal, you know, I'm looking at not only the engine that I'm going to use, the frame that I'm going to use, and the wing that I'm going to use. Fuel is going to become a portion of that. Now, I'm planning to do it with a chase crew to be able to go pull this off. But all of those could arguably be factors, particularly if you're going to be flying, maybe taking off at sea level, but flying at quite a bit of altitude. And, you know, I'll say this, I am not the expert. I know enough to be dangerous. And there are a lot of people out there that are worth talking to get the right, you know, perspective that you're looking for. And so, you know, in things I really don't know about, I'll ask a bunch of different people in the hope that, you know, I'll be able to pull the carrots out from each of those and decide what works out. But, you know, I think the general rule is high octane, you know, no ethanol over a prolonged period of time if you can get it. Everyone I know that's gone to avgas, I shouldn't say everybody, but a large number of people I know that have gone to avgas seem to be having problems or have had problems at one time or another. And that's not true for everybody, but you know, it's the guys that maybe are not very mechanical or think they're very mechanical, that tinker a lot, that I mean, that's why I blew up my first engine. It ran so well, I didn't want to take the carburetor off and clean it, because everyone else I'd seen that they messed with it had a problem. And so I'll end up blowing that engine up because I never cleaned the screen of the carb. And, you know, that results in a brand new engine. I kind of treat my engine more like, you know, it's a woman that I've got to know, and you know what she likes, and don't change it up without her asking.
Exactly.
Okay, then.
Now we know that Never Trust a Green Chef Shane, that's on our panel here, he runs avgas all the time. I don't think that he's not run avgas. So real quick, Shane, have you had any problems with your paramotor running avgas 100%?
Well, I've run 56 hours with avgas. I just here recently pulled the cover off for the heads, or the head, and I had a white paste. I don't know, like a cakey paste, if you will. Which, come to find out, I'm not running my motor hard enough. I literally do not go past 50 to 60% on almost my entire flight, other than takeoff. And what it is it's lead buildup that I'm not burning off. And maybe some of the Red Armor two-stroke that I'm using. But I just now, this past weekend, I flew for 4 hours and purposely climbed for a minute, full throttle, several times during the flight, which I think is abusing the motor, but apparently it's not. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to run two strokes hard, and you're supposed to run them fast. So I don't know. It's something in my head that I think it's abusing it, which is, it's actual abuse when you don't run it full speed. But I'm going to go another maybe 5-6 hours, and then I'm going to pull the heads and see what the head cover, and see what it looks like after I've run it like I've been told to run it.
What's your oil mix?
50 to 1.
On what was the oil again?
The Red Armor, the Echo Red Armor.
So, I mean, it'd be very interesting to see where you land up at the end, right?
Right.
Everyone I've been told, so when I fly altitude, like to go up to Mount Shasta, for example, I was flying a tiny little wing for starters, which was not the right wing for it. But I was literally running at 8,000 RPM for 2 straight hours. And, those motors are, from everything I've heard, they're designed to do that. Now, it's not usually my choice to be, operating at 8,000 RPM, but much rather be operating at, 6.5 to 7.5. But, and you can take it back and, pull everything off and take a look at it, and it looks perfect. So, I want my engine to last. I don't want to burn it out at 150 hours, but I guess if you run them hard all of the time, if Vitarazi's calculations are correct, you're supposed to be able to run them flat out for 200 hours before needing to do anything.
Wow. I think I'm going to try that.
Well, I was
Don't
told.
say I said that, though.
Harvey said it would be okay, and you would cover it under warranty, right?
I was actually sent 100 hours of avgas and 50-to-1 red armor, and the heads were almost spotless. And good Lord, that woman's loud. Anyways,
You just had a photo bomb. Who was that? Your wife?
yeah, I think so. I wasn't looking. I was looking at myself. Ever since I put this filter on, I'm just like, man, that's a good-looking guy right there. But anyways, yeah, I was sent the photos. They were, the heads were perfect. They were clean. So I'm new. I'm with Sean. I went to school and finished in November of last year. So anything that I can learn, like right now, I have a little carb. I'm guessing it's carb issues. I'm flying at normal altitude and maintaining it, and I'm getting this little and it just does that anytime I'm staying at the same altitude or the same RPMs at mid range. So I'm guessing it's some kind of carb issue, if you will. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so tough to know, right? Because a lot of people out there seem to be experts. I have to admit, I decided to run my Vitarazi exactly the way they said it should be run, and so I don't run problems, right? They as far as I know, they don't recommend or ask people to use avgas, and it's almost always, it's not even the motor, it's carburetors. And I saw it with HE engines too, where the carbs were just a little bit fussy, and if you didn't do things exactly right, it could be, of course, you'll go through your warranties. If I know a couple guys that have said, oh well, change the the high end just very slightly, and it's like an 8th turn, and everything runs amazing. But I think it's a choice that. I'm so sorry.
Is that a paramotor?
Challenge of being at an airport. It's tough, and I worked on a lot of two-strokes when I was in high school and into college, but I didn't work on anything for 20 years, and then came back, and I've had to learn with my paramotor, and I make very, very small adjustments and then try it out. If it doesn't work, I go back to where it was and then try and figure out what my next choice is. There are some guys, I know not everyone is a fan of some companies, but there's one guy that I know that knows carburetors in and out, and that's Mike Gambrel, and he works at Blackhawk. And he's the only guy I know that actually knows how carburetors, you describe it to him exactly, and he can usually tell you what to go do to solve it.
Since you've been flying in so many different states and you've been flying for so long, in your opinion, what type of gas and oil would be the best to use just in general?
I try and be pretty, maybe I should try and get Shell or Chevron to sponsor me or something. as I said earlier, I like using branded fuel for the paramotors. So I've stayed away from BP because of Macondo, but their fuels are good. So it's like 76, Shell, or Chevron are the three brands that I typically buy, and I'm using the modal because that's what Vitarazi said, and I get the highest octane that I can get, and then I'll mix my fuel predominantly for what altitude that I'm going to fly. So I'll lean it off. I've been kind of just eyeballing what it is. Like if I'm gonna mix, say 60 on 800, maybe I'll lean it off to 67 for an altitude flight. Or if I'm flying the 710, if I'm flying in super hot weather and I'm low to the ground, I might go down to 45 on my mix with those same fuels. So I'm not sure it's the smartest thing, and obviously I'm going to get more buildup doing those things, but I don't have to change the screws, and that means I'm less likely to cause a problem with my carburetor.
Just because we have a lot of new people that may or may not have flown already that are listening to this, real quick, what does leaning out your fuel mean?
Depends who you talk to.
Right.
It's a trick question, right? Because
No,
I like to.
It's in your opinion, with your experience, what does leaning out your fuel mean?
So I've always gone down the mindset that I'm leaning my fuel off if I reduce the amount of oil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there are other mindsets that say it's the other way around. So
Yeah, rich is thicker in oil and leaner is less in oil, less oil per gas, is my impression.
See, now I
Uh-oh.
don't even know what you guys just blew my mind, because that doesn't make any
We're
sense
about
to
to-
me. I'm flabber. I mean, Rich and
Water isn't wet.
If a person was lean when it came to body fat, do they have a
Yeah,
lot of fat or a little
doesn't have
fat?
anything to do with oil. It has to do with fuel. Richening and
Yeah.
leaning is the needle setting. That's adding. It's in your ratio of air to fuel, not your ratio of oil to fuel to air.
yeah, I think a mechanic probably describes it more accurately than I do. But so I usually say I reduce the amount of oil that I stick in, in my fuel. That's my way of I guess leaning the oil off.
But the only way to do that in a two-stroke where you mix the oil and gas is to change the fuel to oil ratio, right?
That's typically it. I mean, sure, I can move my needle a little bit, but it's one of the weird things with my specific motor is if I try and lean off and I lean the needle off too much, it won't necessarily improve my idle problem at all, which is usually at altitude. That's the issue. And so often I've found a lot of time where I'm actually turning the screw further to technically richen it up a bit, and it's quite a lot more than I would have thought, which is why I experimented with changing my oil to gas ratio, because that seemed to be more reliable than me messing with the screw. And now, honestly, if I go fly at 6,000 feet, or if I go fly at 0,000 feet, maybe I have to increase my idle just a little, but I'm finding now I don't even have to change my idle that much between those two different altitudes. I'm getting what I'm expecting. So I think whatever I'm doing is working for me. It doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody else, though.
And also too, I wasn't trying to, single you out, but a lot of paramotor people, talk about, air fuel and fuel and oil mixtures and say lean and rich. And, we can go and look up the definition, but a lot of paramotor pilots say different things, pretty much like you said. You lean out the oil to make it more lean. which makes sense, you know.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here because it's something I try not to be that controversial, at least in the paramotor world. Everywhere else, apparently, I am. But if you're going to fly like a competition pilot or be like Matt Minyard, who flies some extraordinary maneuvers, and he's high and he's low, and I mean I've watched Matt fly, and I feel like he's got that motor flat out all the time, and that's how he flies. And he's an amazing pilot, right? So if you're going to fly with the throttle wide open all of the time and you're going to ride it like a race car, maybe you want to tune around for that. If you're going to drive like a grandma, like I did forever, where you never really push the throttle up past 6,500 and you do enough and your climb rates are nice and slow, and the motor does what it's supposed to do without tinkering and trying to tune it to do a certain thing, then probably go with what the manufacturer says and just let it run. Hopefully, if you're gonna tinker with it, you're looking to get some performance out of it that it won't do under reasonable circumstances. And I think when I started to have problems where the paramotor wouldn't idle and it started to be difficult to start, it was largely because I had kept my fuel mix much, my oil to fuel ratio, I kept a lot more oil than I was supposed to. I think I was still doing 40-1 way longer than I was supposed to, according to the manufacturer. And the moment I just went to the manufacturer's setting of, X amount of fuel and oil, it worked out. So, if you don't have to tinker, why do it? And most of us are just flying for fun, right? We're trying to maybe do a short cross country. Maybe it's 20, 30, 50 or 100 miles. And if you've got a wing, you're not flying a super small wing, and you're just trying to cruise and get from point A to point B and have some fun and enjoy the view, let the motor do what it's supposed to do at whatever the default settings are.
I totally agree. The leaning and rich and all that stuff has always been kind of, outside my scope. And I've rebuilt my engine a couple of times. But when it comes to the carburetor, I always go to the default setting on the carburetor, setting it to where it needs to be set. And the only thing I do different, like you said, is leaning out my oil to my gas ratio. That's the only thing I've ever done. And it seems like the takeaway here is, unless you know how to use a carburetor and actually tune it correctly, stay away from that. And just change out your oil and fuel mixture. If you want to tune it, talk to your instructor, talk to someone that rebuilds carburetors, all the time. But if you're having some problems,
I would talk to someone who's been through the Vitarazi carburetor class that actually knows, unless they're someone who's worked on a lot of carburetors, right? And this is a testament to going with the defaults. When at my 110 hours, I decided that I was going to do the service that's supposed to be, in which, in the case of the carburetors, is just a case of replacing the diaphragms, right? It's the diaphragms and the the other pieces of paper that go in there, right? So it doesn't leak. And literally, I very, very carefully and meticulously pulled it all apart and put in the new diaphragm, closed it up, put it back in the engine. And as everyone who saw those videos, I went and cleaned the carbon off the top of the head and off the piston. And I put it all together, squeezed a little bit of fuel, and it fired up first pull and idled. And there's a lot to be said for that peace of mind versus you putting together and you're pulling and you're pulling and you're pulling and the damn thing won't start, and you don't know if it's because you don't have fuel, because you screwed up. So for me personally, I was like, whoo, I didn't break it.
So how many times have you rebuilt your motor, or how much repairs did you have to do on your trip?
So I literally did the 100-hour. I think it was close to 110 hours. Maybe it was 108 hours or something. I get was the first chance that I get, and um, when I broke the, I don't know, when I changed the second exhaust, the other thing I did with that was I changed out the engine mounts and the exhaust mounts. And that's all I've had to do. And I'm up to, I think, 175, maybe 176 hours right now. So virtually no maintenance. You know, I do look at if I do a hard flight and I come in and land, I'll take a look at my spark plug and make sure that, you know, my burn rate's good. I tend to always look at it about every 3 or 4 flights, you know, and particularly if I'm changing altitude or doing different things, then I want to look at the spark plug. And that's usually the telltale as to whether I'm creating a problem or whether I can avoid a problem. And so I love this motor. It's been absolutely amazing. Bitarazi isn't paying me to say that, but it's been, you know, I'm touching wood. I hope I'm not about to go jinx myself. But
How about your exhaust, Harley? Huh?
yeah, so
Have you had any exhaust
There we
issues?
go.
Or I wasn't sure. I asked
Yeah.
myself just because I recently just had the notorious crack
Yeah.
right, you know,
Okay, so
4 inches from the head.
here's what I know and what my experiences are. I broke my first exhaust at 70 hours at the Grand Canyon flying extremely cold weather. And all I did was start it. And while it was idling to warm up, that exhaust cracked and fractured.
So mine did.
And,
Wow.
you know, I'm going to blame cold temperatures for that. And ironically enough for me, on my second one, which was in Pennsylvania, it was also a super cold morning. And I was about an hour or so into the flight when that exhaust, I could hear it starting to go. And then finally it went. And, you know, I had a long, scary flight back to the LZ. But so those were my experiences. And the second one broke, I think, at 50 hours and not 70. So that kind of sucked. I'm on to my third exhaust, and this third exhaust actually came from the same batch of engines. And so one of the things I'm told, I don't know if it's true or accurate, was that in late 2018, when Bitarazi first put out the MY 2019, allegedly there was a batch of steel and a batch of exhaust that came out in like a 1-month block of time, where there were more problems reported with those exhausts cracking and breaking than there were with any others. And in fact, a lot of guys were saying that they hadn't had any problems for a long time with that 2019 exhaust. I think we can all agree that, you know, the design maybe didn't work as well as Bitarazi had hoped. And ultimately the 2020 exhaust that's come out, everyone that I've talked to that's been running it, Matt Minyard's been running it for a while, and, you know, no one's had any problems with it at all. So I think I'm up to, I want to say 30 or 40 hours on this one. It came off, I bought these 2 engines at the same time, so they're from the same batch. So if I break it at 70 hours, I know at least then that batch of engines that came out with those exhausts at that period of time had the same problem. And make no mistake, you know, I will ask Bitarazi to, even though it's well out of warranty, I'll ask them to take care of me, because, you know, I think it's clear that they're trying to put that whole exhaust thing behind them. And certainly from what I've been hearing is from the 2020 exhaust is, it looks like Bitarazi can put that chapter behind them. And if the engine stays as reliable and the carburetor stays as reliable, I mean, there are other great engines out there, but this is a winner in my mind.
For people that run 2-stroke motors, like using motorcycles and stuff, they have these things right here that they put in their tailpipe, their muffler. It's so they can, wash it off and stuff like that, and not get anything in their muffler. Also, too, these things are good to keep moisture out. Like if you have dew or just humidity in general, it can get into that muffler and start rusting in there. With this plug or this type of plug in your muffler, when you're not flying, this has actually saved a lot of mufflers. Matter of fact, I've been using something like this in my muffler since I got my motor, and I'm hoping, cross my fingers, that I don't have anything that will, rust out or happen. Does anybody
You're
else?
not flying enough.
What's that?
You're not flying enough if you need that.
Yeah. So Sean, how many times have you started your engine with that plug in the muffler?
About the same amount of times as I forgot to put my helmet on. None. No.
That's why we have a pre-flight checklist, right?
Exactly. So I was just wondering, does anybody else use something like this? And no, I fly a lot. I fly most mornings and most evenings, every single chance that I get. And if I don't put on 20 hours a week, I'd be surprised. But so does anybody else use something like this?
I actually made something similar myself, Sean, but I use it on the intake side. I guess I never really thought about putting it on the exhaust side, but I think maybe the best case scenario would be to seal it on both sides to really protect it. My fear was insects or rodents getting into my air filter housing and maybe eating the foam and stuff like that. That's what I was trying to protect. And I think you bring up a good point too in protecting condensation and water from getting into the exhaust side. Really, you don't want anything in there, so.
There was a couple of questions in the chat earlier. Paramotor Crazy, he wants to know what kind of oil mix that Linda uses.
What's
the
ratio that Linda uses?
What?
Is it 6
That'd be an inside story to that.
Oh, great.
And then Wayne asked if anybody else flies a Blackhawk 90.
190 or 90?
190?
It says Blackhawk 90.
The old Banshee? I don't know anyone that still flies the Banshee. It's an old, probably the 190.
Yeah, I flew with the guy last night, actually. He had a Blackhawk 190.
Yeah.
I forget what the actual engine was called, but he said they don't really carry them anymore.
Yeah, they discontinued the Talon 190, which was made by HE, and
yeah, HE, that's what it was.
yeah, so Blackhawk terminated that relationship with HE, I believe, like, I don't know, maybe November or December last year. But so they primarily are selling Corsair with the Black Bull, the Black Bead, and forget there's one other in the range there that they've been selling, and of course they sell Vitarazi. But HE, I don't know anyone who's selling HE anymore.
Yeah, in response to the question, it ran well. He seemed to really like it. He had nothing but good things to say about Blackhawk and their service. He seemed almost embarrassed to tell me that he had a Blackhawk, and I was like, dude, like, I feel like Blackhawk kind of has a bad rep, but everyone I've ever talked to says Mike, they take care of their customers so well, and anyone who's ever called in for service, they get taken care of right away. Great technical support. Everything's done here in the States, and I don't know. I don't have anything to say bad about Blackhawk.
Well, I mean, all of you guys know that I'm flying a Blackhawk frame with a Vitarazi, right? And I was probably, if not the first, certainly one of the first Blackhawk customers to be flying the Vitarazi. And I
really,
yeah. So at the time, I wanted the Vitarazi engine, but I also wanted to keep my Blackhawk frame. And so Mike agreed to do that for me, and of course then he's been selling those. And I think it was I don't know that for certain, but I think it was around about the same time that they were looking to discontinue HE. the reason, just this is my 2 cents, and I think there are people who have done business with Blackhawk over the years and used to be Blackhawk dealers that don't anymore, and sometimes those individuals are the harshest critics for whatever reason, right? And so I think my trend, there's definitely an East Coast, West Coast thing where along the East Coast, certain people tend to want to buy more ozone over doodac, for example. But here on the West Coast, people like doodac. It boils down to the same thing that's always been the case, which is that, people like what they got trained on, and they tend to, do or die with those till the cows come home. And, those, if you learn on Blackhawk, you're going to like Blackhawk and the service. I've been a good Blackhawk customer because Mike and Mike have always taken care of me, and I've had service from them like nobody. I've been very lucky. I've had great service from some other people for some other things that I've needed. I think you just gotta. You're either a Ford fan or a GM fan or a Ram fan. You pick your poison and you support them. But I hopefully we'll see less and less of this beating up of the different brands and the different sellers, because we still see way too much of that. Whether they deserve it or not is immaterial. We don't need it online, and we shouldn't do it.
Couldn't agree more.
So Harley, you've flown 50 states now. You got your name in the Guinness Book of World Records. What was the one moment that you'll never forget? It might be the scariest moment or the most fun moment. What's the one thing of the whole trip? If you can come up with just one, what would it be?
Oh, crap.
The most memorable moment of 50 states.
Wow, that's really tough.
When he flew through Arkansas and I saw him on the news.
There's some beautiful places out there. I've been to about 35 of the lower 48, and I've just seen the tip of the iceberg, so I can only imagine, but I'm sure you've got a good story.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if we could do a documentary on the backstory, right? All the things that I felt and saw and did on behind the scenes. Wow. I mean, it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster at different times. Is definitely, some of my own personal behind the scenes story that was good and bad. But the flying, you know what? It wasn't the best flight that I had, but it's certainly something that I'm going to take away for a while, which was that, flying around Mount Rushmore was pretty damn cool, because it took a lot of planning. It was a very risky choice to go do that, and it was not an easy flight. And I got lucky with the weather and everything else coming together, and the two guys that tried to get off the ground and go do it with me. And it worked out, and it could have not worked out just as easily as it did. So that's definitely one that's high up there. Flying to the Glacier, Sedona, being allowed to fly out of Grand Canyon. That's not something any one of us, I don't even think they'd let me do it again. So there's just so many different things in different places that I did that are so memorable. I really hate to choose one, because it's just that tough. And obviously, the number one thing was just meeting other pilots every step of the way. That by far was the highlight.
I know that you had to get a permit or special clearance to fly in the Grand Canyon. What other places required special permission?
Washington, D.C.
Oh, you didn't try to land on a south lawn with your gyrocopter and deliver to U.S.
Yeah, I did actually. So this is probably the first time I've mentioned this, so maybe it's a good story, but I did actually take the Sephirah Test. So there's an online course that you can take to be allowed to fly through the Sephirah. and get anywhere near, you know, inside of, you know, the area. So I did actually send an application off to the FAA, which of course was very promptly denied. But it did give me some information, and basically it boiled down to two things, which I'm not sure I should say on the air, but I know how to go do it. And if the right opportunity at the right time shows up and I can find the two right people that I need, I would love the opportunity to go do it. But it's not a small undertaking. It's not easy, and you better have your ducks in a row.
Ducks in a row. Yeah.
No,
I live
another
like
question.
that, but I have
I got,
squirrels.
I got another question from the chat. JP, what are you drinking there out of that straw?
And Tommy keeps disappearing. His like head's going down.
No, no.
Then he comes back up.
If I turn off my chat, my dog's attacking me. He thinks it's playtime. So
Oh my God, I love you guys. Crack me up.
Linda, you never answered the question. What oil do you use? What mixture?
Wait,
I-
Linda's a pilot?
No, just talk about our
in
cooking.
my own, yeah, in my mind, yes, yes. I'm a pilot of something. Not sure yet. But yeah.
Harley, I wanted to ask you,
Yes, Mr. Neppa.
was there any point, like, obviously we all love flying, like it's the greatest thing in the world. That's why we're all here. Was there any point in the trip though where you got a little bit burnt out? Like there has to be, like, that's a lot of flying, and that's a, you know.
Yeah, I never really got burned out on the flying. There were definitely, you know, some emotional sort of low points, right? I won't forget when, you know, I put everything in storage. I moved out of the apartment that I was renting, and I moved into this camper, and I went and parked out in New Jerusalem Airport near Tracy in California. And I was there alone. It's brutally hot out, nowhere, and I went, oh, what the hell have I done? Because it really was the scariest moment where I'm like, I've changed my entire life to go do this trip. And that was right as I was kicking off. There was, you know, it was kind of like the dry run, you know, 2 days before I left for Hawaii to go get flying. So, you know, I really didn't get burned out on the flying, because if you think about it, I did 1.6 states per week is what I averaged out at. And so my general cycle was like, you know, drive one day, get to a location, then spend a day or two sometimes waiting for weather and planning and talking to some people, maybe do a day, sometimes 2 days of flying, and then updating all the social media and editing the videos, and then do it again. And so I actually got into a pretty good rhythm where that's how it ran. Typically 3 to 4 days in each location, sometimes maybe 5 or 6 days where I would take some time off. I remember in Wyoming, you know, just hanging out with Ray, and, you know, going out to the oil fields with him, and, you know, just taking a couple days and trying to race the speed goats and stuff like that. So I was able to balance it all. It wasn't trying to fly every single day and cover a huge amount of mileage. That's a whole different ball game, and I could see getting, you know, burned out much quicker.
Now, you said that you were planning on doing another cross country, more like the Icarus across the United States. Where are you starting? What states are you crossing, and where are you finishing?
All right, so I'm gonna go on a limb here, because if I don't do this, people are gonna laugh at me. I don't know if everyone knows him, but Jean-Francois Chabard, who him, Matt Minion, and a couple of other guys, and I hopefully have got all the names correct there. pretty much, did that, fly the paramotor the Americas, right? And so at the very least, I know that Jean-Francois flew pretty much along the whole southern coastline with the missing out on one very small section. And so my goal with this next cross country, of course, now that I'm putting it out, someone like, oh goodness, Bo Feldman might just kick my butt on it and go do it and prove he can do it quicker. The goal is to fly from literally coast to coast, leave the water in San Diego and fly all the way to Jacksonville to the coastline there. And, it's, 2,400 to 3,000 miles. And I'd like to do it as a speed record. How fast can it be done? And do it from a speed record from a two-way perspective. One is to do it in the shortest number of days possible. And then the second one would, of course, be the shortest total amount of time in the air to actually pull it off. Because I think that's actually a pretty substantial race that arguably if the sport grows and we can find a way to do that safely, it could be another way to sort of plan an Icarus in a different way. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I'm chatting to some people. I'm trying to get as much advice that I can in terms of when to do it, how to do it. And there's some very clear ideas to do it where if I'm going to pull it off, you need weather in your favor, you need the right equipment to do it, and there's a fair amount of risk involved. So I'm not a young guy. Tucker, is half my age. He might be better equipped to go pull it off. Bo certainly could pull it off. So hopefully I'm not shooting myself in the foot by talking about it, because I really would like to be able to pull it off. But if it inspires somebody else to go do it and set a world record to do it, then so be it.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. I've just got a little highlight reel going on in the background.
Yeah, I'm watching it, man. It's some pretty good clips.
Yeah.
Hey, Harley, I have to say, man, you're an inspiration to me, man. I like to travel around, but you did something that I wanted to do, just go to as many states as possible and fly. And you did it, man. All 50 of them. So
go do it.
Kudos, brother.
Thank you. Go do it. Only regret I have is not doing it sooner. There's one other person that, as far as I know, he's at like 36 states or something like that now, who's trying to go to at least all 48 in the country.
I saw that.
And then there's somebody else where Team Fly Halo, I don't know if it's the same person. I should probably try and find it. But there is someone else who said they wanted to go do it. So if it inspires other people to travel and see the whole country and get the perspectives, and there are other ways to fly it. It really is something everyone should give it a shot if they can find a way to do it.
So when you fly across the United States, I think, well, here's my suggestion, is that you let everyone know where you're taking off, where you're going, and where you're landing every day, and let other people, kind of fly with you, so maybe you might have a whole group of people following you on your adventure across the United States in different states. I know I would love to be able to go fly with you, the legend. I think that'd be awesome.
The legend Harley Milne. I'd pay to do that. I would donate to the cause for that.
There you go. Donate to fly with you. There we go. Donate to fly with you.
Uh-oh, foot drag.
There we go. Donate to fly with you. I would do it for sure.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people would.
Oh, that's very cool, and that's very humbling. You guys are so kind. I've seen, Sean, I've seen the number of followers you have. I think you might still be more famous than I am.
I'm not famous for paramotors.
Yeah, good time.
When you guys showed the Tucker got snippet there, what nobody saw was that my landing was really bad. The weather was not great, and then as I came in to land, Tucker had landed just before me, and we were the wind was coming in between the hangars, and that medical helicopter was right there. And so
Oh, no.
Tucker had landed on the grass, and a couple people were standing on the grass, and I overshot the grass. And if you see the video, I'm pumping up and down. I'm overcorrecting on that cubic, which I'd never flown before. But I came in and I landed sideways, and I sort of was trying to stay on my feet, and then did a 180 and toppled over on the side. And fortunately, the glider didn't land anywhere near the helicopter. But it was a very embarrassing moment for me. Fly with a legend like Tucker and screw up the landing pretty good.
It happened.
I have a two-part question. I know you've flown a lot of states, and most of the time you try to find somebody to fly with, but surely some of these times you were going by yourself in a remote type location. So have you ever been flying during this 50 states trip by yourself, had an engine out? And just a secondary question on that is, do you carry something like a spot, a personal satellite GPS tracker for an emergency situation?
Yeah, so virtually all of the flying that I was doing, typically, I wasn't that far from being able to get help, right? The worst I was going to do is have a walk some distance to get to a highway. So I always carry my cell phone, and most commonly that's the technology that I rely on if I'm trying to, be able to call somebody. I happen to fly a lot by myself, but I'll always try and make sure that I'm taking the precaution that, I can get somewhere where I can flag down somebody. Obviously, this cross country or coast to coast, as I'm calling it, that's going to require a lot more technology, because I'm probably going to be flying in some pretty remote places where if I go down, it's not going to be pleasant at all.
Have you thought about starting a cross-country school to teach paramotor pilots how to do something like this?
I haven't considered. It's an interesting thought. I don't know that I'm necessarily have the experience to teach cross countries, right? I mean,
What is your hour mark, Harley?
I don't
You
know.
had to take, an educated guess.
Yeah, it's well over 500 hours now. And flight wise, I think I'm closing on 700 or 800 now. So, I think when I started the trip, I was closer to, I don't know, 350 or something like that. And, I think the stats on the number of flights and hours that I did were all on the 50X website. But I think 180 locations, 180 flights was the total, I think, for that trip, and about 80 hours of flying, I think, or 85 locations or something. But
Wow.
quite a
So
bit.
most of your flights are pretty long then. You have more flights than you do, or
Yeah, I've typically, especially early on, I tended to not do a lot of short flights. I think, I'm obviously not counting touch and goes and, training flights and all that kind of stuff. So these are just a sort of a general hour count that I keep track of.
Mm-hmm. Very.
It is interesting that the more you fly, the less you track your flights.
Yeah.
Well, I've been scuba diving for 20 years, and I think once I got to 1,000 dives in 20 years, I stopped really keeping track.
Right.
You could just sit here and watch your videos all day long, and I think that's what we've done. I know that we've been talking for a while. If you need to go, absolutely, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your insight, and definitely can't wait until you cross the Arkansas borders again, because I would definitely like to fly with you. I missed this last time, but I did see you on the news, which was really cool, and even cooler now that I can actually chat with you on this podcast. I mean, you're the only person I know that actually hit all 50 states. Is there anybody else that you know that hit 50 states?
I know that I'm the first person, and I did my due diligence to go check that. And so therefore, that's why I was able to set it as a world record. Obviously, Guinness still need to verify that and eventually decide to publish it. But, you know, right now, I think there are at least one, perhaps two other people trying to complete all 50 states, which I think is just absolutely amazing. So
How long do you think, I mean, you said that Guinness has to verify that. Where are you in that verification process?
So I submitted my paperwork, I want to say towards the end of June, and you know, it's at least a 3 to 4 month process, and that's assuming that they don't sort of turn around and either reject the application or you know, require me to go bring additional evidence. Unfortunately, my experience with Guinness is that they took a long time between communications, and so unless you want to fork out the $5,000 for them to instantly, you know, respond back to you, it's a long process. And in fact, there was even documentation that they sent me in May, a year later after the application had been approved. So my application for setting the record was created back in May or June 2019 and approved like August or September, but they didn't send me some of the requirements to actually document it until much later on. And it was just very fortunate that I took a lot of the necessary steps, that there'll be no question as to whether it was done or not. But it doesn't mean that Guinness can't reject it, and if they do, it is what it is. But I think I've done everything that's necessary to get them to accept it, and now it's a matter of time of waiting.
Did you use like Skyfly High or something like that to track your stuff to use this verification?
I wish I had done that for every single flight. I didn't feel that it was necessary because obviously the witness statements that I have from everybody and the video and the photographs and so on are all geotagged. And because I wasn't trying to set a distance or a time record, that wasn't necessarily the case. I mean, ultimately it is a time record because it's how long it took me to do the whole trip, which was, you know, seven months and 2 days. But you know, each flight only needed to, you know, last 15 minutes to make that time. So it's really about how long it took to actually complete that trip versus, you know, a certain amount of time in the air. So that would have been helpful, and certainly, you know, Fly Sky High is something I would use as a minimum for tracking, you know, a coast to coast, which would have to have very, very accurate and maybe even get 1 or 2 people assigned on the ground who would, you know, verify that every step of the way. To get someone at Guinness to do that is kind of expensive, and they may define rules that we would have to follow anyway to get that recognized by Guinness. Trying to get any of the other organizations to, like FAI, that was proving to be much more difficult, and they only certify certain kinds of records.
Well, since you've done this already and you've already gone through 50 states, I don't think it'd be very difficult for you to find pilots in every single state to verify you flying through the state, especially if they jump up in the air and you know, do a wingtip bump with you.
Yeah, I'm not particularly concerned. You know, so I think it's just a time to wait for them to do their work. And my expectation is it could take Guinness a year even before they recognize it, and then before it gets published. So I'm hopeful that, you know, that happens. You right now I'm just focusing on salvaging what's left of my business. COVID is definitely making that challenging. I guess I'll share one other small piece of news, and one of the reasons I'm here at this airport is I'm currently working on my PPL. So one of the things, I've thought about flight my whole life, didn't think I could really afford to fly, and I just realized through this whole trip, it's only money. I'm gonna run out at some point, and so I've started ground school. I'm trying to find an aircraft that I can buy, and I have a CFI, and so I'm hoping in the next 2 to 3 months I'll be through, have my private pilot's license, which will open up all kinds of new doors. And after that, I think I can focus on trying to do the coast to coast and really start pushing to do all the things that I'm going to need. Like, I have a laundry list of things, basic things that I think I need, and it's going to cost a certain amount of money, and I got to figure out, how I pay for that, or whether there are people who would like to help me do that.
Well, it's interesting that you said that. I got some friends that actually bought an airplane so they can take their paramotors to different places and go fly.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you're doing what a lot of other people are going to be doing or are doing, and that's getting a. Oh, I love that shot of.
They actually let you fly Mount Rushmore, like
it's beautiful. Wow.
holy.
So you can't fly over it unless you're 2,000 feet above it, I think is.
You look pretty darn close.
Well, I made absolutely sure that I was outside the boundary that they have. So if you look at the charts, you'll see that there's a blue square box around it, and you'll see that I didn't cross the road, which is where that boundary box sits. So I made 100% sure that I was 100% legal.
That is beautiful.
The other cool thing too was that it was during COVID, right? There's nobody around, very few visitors there. It was early in the morning, and so having people raise concerns, didn't happen because I chose a very good time to go do that. But
right.
I don't recommend going there unless you really know what you're planning. I know where I would launch from now. That's differently, assuming I could get permission to go do it. And the big thing there is if you have an out, you got to make sure you've got altitude to get to somewhere. And if the weather is, even if it had been 2 or 3 miles an hour harder, all that air coming over the mountains there is another peak that's actually slightly higher to the, I want to say to the west, and that creates a lot of turbulence as you try and come up over there. So not an easy place to go. If you ever want to go Devil's Tower, by the way, and I'm embarrassed, I don't remember his name, but I had a couple of exchanges with him. You can actually go fly with a guy that holds a fly-in there in July each year. And I strongly recommend, if you ever want to do that. The weather in Wyoming can be, pretty crazy sometimes, as you see. But it's a great group of guys that go fly Devil's Tower there, and they do all the necessary things to make it easier to get to fly pretty close to that thing. So and avoid upsetting the reservation, not a reservation, but the religious aspects that are covered there.
So I saw that you flew over Mount Rushmore. Are there any other national monuments or national parks that you were able to fly over?
I think he said he went to the Grand Canyon. But
yeah, I got to the edge of the Grand Canyon, not technically.
You can't go in it, obviously.
Which nobody can fly over the Grand Canyon, not even commercial aircraft, because of, I think, 1976, a commercial airline did crash out there. So you can't actually, you can fly to the edge of it. And I've heard of some other guys who have launch sites that are outside of the national park that allow them to get pretty much to the boundary. I was just very fortunate enough that I got the approval to take off from the airport, which is a Class D airport. And it also was at a time at the Grand Canyon when there was no traffic. And once again, this was right before COVID, but it was the middle of winter, and that created an opportunity that I don't think is always there.
Well, it's rolling on 8:30 here, and we don't want to hold you up if you're, needing to do something. For people that don't know where to go, tell them your website, how to get up with you on your social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that fun stuff.
Sure. So the website's 50xchallenge.info. And of course, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can literally any of those domains /50xchallenge, and you'll get to me. I definitely try and post mostly on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm still trying to put out some other videos. I flew Mount Shasta, which of course is nearly 14,000 feet to get to the summit. That was an amazing flight. If you haven't seen that video, you should definitely go do it. And I'm looking for the next adventure. So, I can be talked into almost anything these days. So people should reach out.
That sounds awesome. For everyone else, was there any other questions? I think
John?
I don't have any. Linda's having problems. I guess she's not sure if she's on the show or not. She said she couldn't see herself. And we know how Linda needs to see herself.
Oh, she's probably because I'm screen sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nope, I don't see her.
Yeah, so I have nowhere to be. I'm happy to stay on as long as you guys would like. It's
Hey.
yeah.
Is there any questions from the chat or anything? Anybody have any questions for Harley?
I do have a question.
I mean,
you've been as long as you've been flying, and as much as you've been flying, what wing would you, what's your one wing that you're on?
I'm sorry, you cut out on my end, I think. But
If you had to pick one wing, what would it be?
Oh, you can't pick one wing. I think if you follow.
Pick one. You can have one wing for the rest of your life. Which wing? For every condition.
Red.
Red.
Red. I like
That wasn't necessarily the question. I understand you have different tools in your bag for what job you're doing, but what's the one you find yourself going to the most? What's the one that you enjoy flying the most right now?
Goodness. If I'm honest, I would go back to a slightly bigger wing, maybe a 22.
How much do you weigh?
Yeah.
I weigh $180 right now.
Okay.
Now, of course, just saying going to bigger wing and so forth, because like you can fly a 16 free ride, for example, and weigh, I don't know, is it 200 pounds or something crazy like that. It just, the characteristics of that glider make it incredibly good. I think it really just depends what kind of flying you want to do. I really love my Snake. If there's a 1 mile an hour wind, and I'm not at 6,000 feet. I love flying that wing because it's the wing I've got used to, and I've flown it all over the place in all kinds of conditions. The one thing I really do like about the Dudek, particularly the Snake, is that it's safe. I haven't had a single collapse, not once, and I've flown some pretty funky weather. So I think it's a testament to that wing. I'm a big fan of ozone wings. I like the BGD. I think you're gonna just pick something that works for the typical kind of flying that you're doing. I'm a big fan of the Jim Carve. I think it's an awesome wing. I like the free ride, and I need a bigger wing for if you're going to fly altitude. So if I went to maybe a 20 or a 22 Snake, I could probably fly it almost anywhere. I don't know if it's the right wing for trying to do a cross country, from one side of the country to the other. It's fast, it's stable, but it's sporty. You've got to actively fly it. So there are times when I want a wing that I don't have to actively fly quite so hard if I'm just trying to have a nice, fun, relaxing day. And particularly if the weather is not ideal. But I like the wing I got. It's worked out. The warp came up very, very quickly for me, and I'm just a little too slow for that warp. It's a hell of a wing to fly. Love flying it, but it comes up like a rocket, and I like something it just comes up a fraction slower.
Richard in the chat wants to know, where did you fly in Montana?
Montana, I went up and hung out with Team Fly Halo, and I've got to remember so on the 50X challenge, if you go to like the road trip, there is actually a map of all the locations that I flew. So I suppose I should look it up, or somebody else can look it up, but I think it was Lakehead Lake, and maybe I can look it up here quickly. And so Canyon Hansen with Team Fly Halo was who I got to hang out with, and he's got a little launch pad just behind a friend of his place down there, and we were right on the lake. It's amazing. Like I wish I just stayed in Montana, because it was honestly amazing. I got to fly the Scout there, and of course I got to fly the oh my goodness, see, maybe it is getting to that time of the day. It's the Tucker number. What was it? The number 3. Have to look it up. Can you believe it? Wings. It'll come back to me. Oh, the Cougar 3. So I flew the Cougar 318 there, and was it an 18? Yeah, I think it was the 18. And if I remember correctly, it was everyone I know that's flown the bigger glider, love it. And so I think the 18 or the 20 is probably the range that I would stay in if I kept flying it.
You flew 50 states. I mean, was there any time that you were dealing with an injury that was slowing you down, like a sprained ankle or bad back?
When I was so I had flown with Tucker in Pennsylvania, and then I had stayed with Nevada, who's right on the edge of the Delaware River between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And so I stayed there, and I had a tough launch there that morning and came down hard and banged my knee pretty solid. And that unfortunately did swell up. And so I was very grateful when I got to Connecticut that I only did one flight there, but I had about a 2 or 3 day period where I couldn't walk. I couldn't get out of bed. It was that bad. But that was the only real strain that I had. I get gout too, so my diet might have contributed to that at that point in time. And I'll say the good thing about my trip, I was exercising so much that I ended up not even having to take my gout medication. And I got back to California, and I've even lost a whole bunch of weight. Yeah, so it helps keep me healthy, and don't need it. So I've been very, very lucky. I've had 2 tough landings here back in California since I got back. One was up in Lake Tahoe, where you're just coming in so hard on a small wing. And I was wearing steel toe cap boots, and I don't recommend that. Do not wear steel cap boots paramotoring. I actually went out and bought another pair of boots because that just don't do it. Yeah, I got bruised toes, and it especially if you bang them, it's unpleasant. So I still have my boots from the 50 state challenge, which I've had those since I started flying. I still would love to auction those off to try and just get a little bit of money for resurgence. So if you get anyone who wants to throw, even $5 or $10 at having a collector's item, whatever it takes to help resurgence. But I have a new pair of boots now. We'll see if we can, make them, develop their own experience over a long period of time.
Just real quick, on a whim I did a YouTube search for Harley Milne, and you've got quite the resume, my friend. You've been
See
on
that?
Robert Michaels' podcast twice.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm
Um,
talking about.
Okay, yeah, we have Robert Michaels' mother here on the panel with us, Linda Anderson.
Of course, that's right.
So,
I'm,
you've been on.
I'm excited about Thursday's show. It's gonna be good.
Oh yeah, we love our Thursday show. Big shout out to Robert
SIV.
Michaels,
Yeah,
paraglidingtalk.com.
I'm very privileged that everyone has afforded me so many opportunities to be on the shows, and I really do appreciate you guys having me on. I've been very, very blessed through it all, and it's exciting. I forget sometimes with sort of being back here and trying to deal with all the challenges that I've had to sort of take care of since I got back. But talking to you guys is almost making me excited, where I'm like, okay, I don't even have my paramotor with me. I'm getting ready to go fly a drone job tomorrow for a customer, and I won't have a chance till maybe the weekend. And I'm like, God damn it, I should be flying, maybe not right now because it's a little windy, but I bet I could get a 20-minute flight in. So you guys definitely got me excited.
That's awesome. So you're gonna go take your 20-minute flight? Do we need to let you go?
No. So the crazy thing was, I was debating trying to load my paramotor gear and all my dive gear in for 2 people into the back of my truck, and I decided I couldn't do both. So I went scuba diving for the first time in more than a year, which I used to be in the water 2-3 times a week, at least, every week or every other week. And, I taught extensively for years. And so now, of course, I fly more than I ever did ever did scuba dive. So I definitely am loving the flying so much that every opportunity is absolutely amazing. And it's kind of fun to watch you guys do, because so many people are flying, so many people are posting stuff. And I mean, honestly, who needs regular TV or to watch the news with, everyone that's posting such great material of all the experiences?
Dude, for me, regular TV is YouTube.
Right? Dude, YouTube, it's here, like it's,
Yeah.
the commercials.
Harley, I met you at Aviator in Florida around the beginning of December when I was training. At that point, I know you went on their live stream and did an interview, but how many states were you up to at that point? Do you remember? I think it was 20 something.
Yeah, I believe when I got to Florida and I did the interview there, I was at state 19.
Okay.
And, so then I left Florida and I went, and I had been invited and reminded about the Palm Bay fly-in, and I was like, okay, it wasn't part of my original plan, but I decided to go back. And so what a lot of people didn't know was I was cranking through a bunch of the states after leaving Florida. So I went through Georgia, the Carolinas, the Virginias, got pretty snowed in with Dave Halcomb out in Indiana, I think it was, and then went back from Indiana to Kentucky and then to Ohio, and then drove 1,000 miles from Ohio back to Florida just to go do Palm Bay. So by the time I got back to Palm Bay, I think I was in like 26 or 27 states.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. Be able to live out of a camper, go fly beautiful places with your paramotor. I mean,
When you came
that's
through
the life.
when you came through Ohio, Harley, I think you met up with David Wolf, Paramotor Crazy, and I couldn't get off work to meet up with you guys. I wanted so bad to be able to catch a flight with you, but
So next year, if not sooner, right? I mean, hopefully, maybe things get back to some more normality. But my goal is to try and do as many of the fly-ins as possible next year. That's another reason why having a plane and a pilot's license could actually make that work for me. Either that or just shut my business down and wash my hands of it and figure out some other way to make a career. Like I would dance on a pole, but no one wants to throw $100 bills at me. So, so my goal next year is to try and get to as many of the fly-ins as possible, and hopefully that'll be another opportunity to meet a lot of people. But honestly, I will drive hundreds of miles to go fly with people. So, we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool shot a Crazy Horse there. I was at Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse last summer, so pretty cool to see from the air.
And you remember this little parking lot? Taking off from that little parking lot was no small undertaking. We were there super early, and
That parking lot?
yeah, that little
Oh my
parking lot.
gosh.
So the first one, as we were about to take off, we landed up with a slight tailwind. So, halfway down, I aborted that one. And then we changed directions and tried to fly up the other way. And so I got off the ground, skipped over the grass on the verge there, and then landed up rejecting the takeoff and landing on the highway there. And then set up for a third time to make it actually happen. And out of the three of us, only two of us got off the ground, but one of the other guys that was with me, unfortunately, his engine wasn't quite getting to full power, so he landed up landing back there and deciding not to do the trip. So I theoretically had a posse, but we didn't make it happen.
Hey, I had somebody that wanted to ask a question, kind of not related to, your 50 state challenge. However, since you have so much experience, when it comes to stalling your wing, pulling the brakes, how much brake can you pull before you do a stall? That was asked earlier today, and it's pretty much because they seemed like they didn't get enough lift. So when they took off, they had to pull some brake, but they were worried about stalling. Now, you've flown many different types of wings, and you're an ozone fan. I am too. I know with my Roadster, I have to pull serious brake and sit there for a long time before that thing gets slow enough to stall. What is your take on stalling wings by pulling brakes too much?
Yeah, so definitely, the beginner wing versus a more advanced wing. The beginner wing is going to be way more forgiving, and it's going to take probably quite a lot of pressure, right? The biggest problem is actually if you get into a slight turn and then you land up putting too much pressure on one side. That's much more likely, and I can say that from experience, right? That's how I broke my first ankle on my first flight. Was, I got scared, got fixated, and then made a sharp turn at the last minute and stalled the glider at probably 15 or 20 feet up. So it's certainly possible on some gliders, and I paid for it dearly. I have all the shrapnel to show for it. If you're trying to figure it out, the advice that I have heard and that I think stands true is if you're trying to figure out where the stall point is on your glider, get really high, and then you can figure out. And for a lot of gliders, it's a huge amount of pressure. And quite frankly, if you don't have that experience, then probably don't do it. And if you do have that experience, then you're probably ready for an SIV anyway. So, I think if you're gonna, the thing I keep asking myself is, at what point am I gonna make a mistake because I don't know any better? And yes, I've learned a lot along the way, but I actually like it when other people watch what I'm doing, and especially if they're way more experienced and they can point out things that they think I should be doing differently. And it's one of the reasons why, I'm trying to connect with Andrew. In fact, I'm connected with Andrew. I just need to go do this SIV because I want him to really, as part of me spending time out there, go ahead and do some of the things that I'm doing, and then have him tell me, well, you're going to kill yourself, and this is what you should do to go fix that. So I'm a big fan of doing SIVs, And if you're gonna try and figure out the capability of your glider, make sure you've got the experience to do that. And yeah, probably don't do it without high, and maybe have a reserve. And I've never flown with a reserve because I've never done the kind of flying that I felt really needed one. But after the 50 state and after sort of pulling some of the maneuvers, I mean, if you actually watch some of the videos of me flying early on, you don't see me pulling a lot of wing overs and asymmetric turns and so forth. And yet by the time I get to Florida, there I learned to fly. I shortened my brake lines up a little, and suddenly I could land and I could feel the wing. And I know, for example, on my snake, I can take, a toggle and I can bury it all the way down where I'm touching, the side of my hip. And that's the right place for that glider. I did check in with Dudek because I thought maybe if I shortened my brake lines just a little bit more, that I get slightly better flare authority on my landing. And so the advice they gave me with that snake, with the 18, was for me to trim all the way out in flight and then see how much pressure I could put before the tips of the wings would start to turn. And what I discovered is it's exactly at the right place. So if I trimmed in a little bit more, I could potentially create a problem by shortening those even another quarter or half inch. And obviously that's at flight. At speed, maybe I could do a quarter inch or something like that. Give me just a little bit more, especially on the no wind, high altitude landings, just to give me a little bit of, a little bit more flare authority. But, I know your glider, follow the manual, follow what the manufacturers say. And if you're going to try those things, I mean, I've had gliders, even for example, the pressure difference between a Dudek snake and a Car 16 is hugely different. You need a lot more pressure on the free ride. It just takes a lot more strength, so to speak. But make no mistake, when that thing turns, it turns twice as fast as my snake does. So yes, it takes more pressure, but the wing itself is way more reactive. And that is something I definitely learned from flying a lot of those different wings. The F1, for example, I would say less pressure than what I think I felt for the free ride, but that wing turns and it dives. The Piper 22 that I flew from London Ivy, I was less comfortable flying fast wings at that point, but that wing does fly fast and it does turn very quickly. So different wings are going to need different pressure, and then how they react is going to obviously depend on the characteristics. And I'm saying that all from my experience rather than having the expertise, and that's the part that I always want to make sure. It's not like I'm an expert. There's a lot more. I wish I could explain wing characteristics and behavior the same way that Matt Minion does, because he seems to understand it and describe it in a way that it's much more technical in a way that I understand. So I think I need to learn that vocabulary at some point on how to do that and describe sort of what I've been doing and how I think it makes a difference to what is actually a correct representation of those behaviors for their wing in a technical way, rather than just saying, oh, it's a fast wing, or it has flare authority, or you're going to love that wing because it does X. I see that happen too much. Oh, I love this wing because it's fast, or it turns really quickly, or it's got good flare authority. I forget what, efficiency is the most common one I hear. It's a really efficient wing. Well, what does efficient really mean? And it might mean different things for different people. So I think we have to be more careful about how we describe certain characteristics.
Anybody have any questions for Harley? How many SIVs have you done?
0. Trying to get to my first one. Yeah.
When are you gonna do your first one?
So I'm trying to figure it out with Andrew. Hopefully, so it depends partly on my airplane purchase and where that happens. But if most of the planes that I'm finding are on the East Coast, so I would try and coordinate to go out, do the SIV, and then go get my plane and come back with it. So probably within the next, 10 I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks maybe.
When you say Andrew, you're talking about Andrew Fuller?
Andrew Fuller and Leah Katula.
And if you make it on the 8th and 9th, you could be down there with me and Shane.
8th and 9th of August.
Yep.
All right, you might talk me into it.
So this will be my second with Andrew. Shane, this will be his first. And
Yep.
We should all just hang out on the 8th and 9th. That'd be awesome down in Florida.
Oh, there you go. I can't see Shane on the screen here. I see everybody. I'm trying to get
You're
a
welcome.
good shot, but
I said
oh,
already.
there you
You're
are.
Welcome.
Okay, hold on. All right.
No, I don't want to be on it. Tell me when you're group. Tell me what so I can take a shot. Home Depot.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Everybody stay focused. Paparazzi.
Cheeseburger.
You can screenshot that, right?
Yeah, but Harley's not on here though.
Oh
Okay.
my
Why
goodness.
screenshot? We have it.
No,
Oh,
that's
my
okay. I got
goodness.
Harley earlier, but I didn't have Shane on here.
So Shane and
I'm a little
Ron are going to be in Florida for SIV August 7th and 8th.
And hopefully,
Yep.
2, 3, cheese.
It'll be another guy, Brian, too.
You always look good.
I may have to come visit, guys. I won't be able to fly, but I may have to come visit.
There
Hey,
you go.
I've got it'll just be Sean, my friend Brian, and myself, and I can sleep another person. So if you want, come on.
I hear you, brother. But
There you
I
go,
got my
Brian.
own, I got my own camper and truck and dog and generator and everything else too.
Well,
so.
there you go.
Yeah,
Come on.
I'll just leave all my stuff here in California. See if I can hitch a ride with somebody.
there you go.
There you
Yeah,
go,
you'll
Harley.
do it.
Hey,
You'll do it.
Delta give you a ride.
A quick follow-up question, Harley. You said you're looking for a plane. You know, what size plane are you looking for? Like a Cessna 150 or smaller, or bigger, or what?
Yes, so I've been looking at like a Piper Beechcraft, a Mooney and Piper, and Cessnas. I'm leaning more towards Beechcrafts in general.
Okay.
I hit one that just sold the other day that would have been amazing. It's tough, right? I'm a first-time buyer. It's like trying to buy a paramotor. You don't really know what you don't know. You know, from a cost and price perspective, you know, staying in the sort of the 150, 160 range is a little bit cheaper. But, you know, I had some very, very good advice today. And so, you know, the question is whether how long does it take me to find the right plane at the right price and get a good deal? So, you know, right now, you know, maybe I also like the Beechcraft Sport 3 that came out, and I think that's a 180 as well. So ideally a 180 in the Beechcraft range would be most ideal, especially as a new general aviation pilot. I did find something else that's a little bit faster and would probably be a good plane in the long run, but probably not the right plane to learn on it. But there's one thing I learned about paramotors. I'm trying to save money by putting it into a plane and flying that through training. But, you know, you got to make sure you don't break it, just like with paramotors. There's a risk you're going to break it, just like paramotors. And so I'm trying to strike that balance between spending the right amount of money and if I land up with a problem, you know, can I afford to fix it? And
All right, so we have a Rans S12 that we're thinking about putting on the market. Very, very low hours, always hangared.
send me details. I'll take a look.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah, I
will
mean,
do, brother.
Most of the aircraft that I've been looking at are, you know, sort of in the 2,000 to 5,000 on the frame. I'm trying to look for low hours on the engine, primarily because I don't want to land up with an overhaul and I plan to do a lot of flying. So, you know, less than 500, 500 or less on the hours is better. And then props, you know, probably about the same. And then avionics is a bit of a challenge because, you know, especially out here in the Bay Area, ABSD is a necessity. I did find one with an autopilot, which I'm sorry I missed that on that plane. But, you know, I'll fly it as much as I can.
What kind of
Yeah, flying's awesome. Stay in the air as much as you can. Well, my granddad was 90 years old when he got his Rams S14 the last time. It flew all by himself. So that's where we all want to be, man. 90 flying by ourselves.
Yeah, I like it. Someone else is going to ask something.
Oh, I was just wondering, what kind of strobes were you using when you were flying? Because I noticed that you were flying in the morning and night, but also during the day when you're flying, did you use a strobe? Because I tend to use a strobe anytime that I go up in the air, no matter what time of the day it is.
Yeah, I'm a fan of doing that. So I have two great strobes that I liked a lot, and both of them were very generously given to me. I tend to always forget to turn the things on, and so I put them on my helmet. And so I love the Aviator one. It's super bright. It's easy to turn on when it's on my helmet. Unfortunately, the lines occasionally do get caught on it, or at least the GoPro, right? So that's the downside. And I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember the guy's name, but when I was in South Carolina, there's this guy out there who'd made one for his helmet, and it's super skinny, maybe a cube, literally maybe 2 by 1.5 inch. Costs about $60 for him to make and sell, and it's as bright as the Aviator one. So for one for my helmet, I want that one, and it's just a matter of time before I switch those out and put it on there. And then he actually did these two that would go in the wings, and if you look at the South Carolina video, he has like a red and a green one, and then I don't know how he color coded them, but for the price, that's the guy that, I would go to. Of course, the PPG, I like buying through Mark Amsden at PPG Supply, and the PPG smoke products are the only other ones I've seen out there that sort of do all three and synchronized and have decent price and seem to work pretty well.
I think JP and I have the PPG Smoke three strobe, the one that goes out in the wings and the one on the helmet. JP, how's that been working for you, that strobe system from PPG Smoke?
Great. It's I had a little bit of trouble with one of the wingtip strobes. It seems to blink intermittently, but it's been like that since I got it, and I just haven't got on it to get with the manufacturer. I'm sure they'll warranty it for me, or maybe there's a reset button somewhere, but one of the tips goes in and out. It won't blink.
I think all tips are supposed to go in and out. Just saying.
It comes and goes. Let me rephrase. It doesn't blink consistently, and but the control seems to work great. You turn your head or your main on, and the other ones follow pretty instantaneously. And
I think it's is it Sean? I forget who's the manufacturer. It's Sean at PPG.
Brian Roberts.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as I know, he's been really amazing at.
That's what I hear.
Products that don't work. I mean, I've heard plenty of stories with the chase cam where things either broke and he just sent them new ones. So yeah, the service on those things, if they don't work or have a problem, seems to be amazing.
Did you check the blinker fluid in it, JP?
I might pop off the blinker fluid. It might be a little bit low.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
I haven't told anybody this, but on my PPG Smoke strobe system, one of the blinker ones, the one for the wingtip, when I put the thing in to charge it, the whole piece broke off, right? So I contacted him and I said, "Hey, this thing broke. What can we do?" He goes, "No problem. I'll send you out one." Just like that. Came in the mail like the quickest. I don't know. It probably was a 2-day, but it sure seemed like it was the next day. And
talking about the battery door.
and it worked. What's that?
You're talking about the battery door?
The actual charging port where you put it in the USB.
Oh.
Charge it. The whole USB port popped off.
So did you have to like take it apart and install it?
No. He sent me a whole new wingtip one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he said, no problem. I'll take care of you.
You have to send yours back? Well, this is why I've been putting it off. I need to contact this guy. Huh. Yeah, I didn't want to go through the hassle of having to ship back the whole thing and
You just sent
print it and
my GoPro photo would turn on or something weird.
hey, GoPro, turn on.
Hey, stop! I have 3 of them in here. Stop!
Start recording.
No, stop!
Hey,
GoPro, take first.
I used to fall asleep during after shows, and these guys would turn my lights. Linda knows they'd turn my lights on and off when I didn't have the virtual background, and they'd put and turn my alarm on and off. And because I've got the Siri HomePod thing, and you can control all that, so I got to be careful not to doze off during some of these after shows. You guys are too cool.
But it's
That's funny. Hey, it's all family, you know.
And you know what? That's why these shows are so great. This is my favorite thing. It's just hanging out with good people, having good conversation.
Right.
I think, like Harley shared, traveling and having so many accommodating friends and meeting new people and just sharing the passion. And then that's what makes this sport so great. It's the community,
Absolutely, man. I mean, I traveled around in a camper for a while, and just people that are camping in campgrounds and state parks and stuff. They kind of get together, but the paramotor community is a really good community. I mean, I have yet to meet somebody that was just negative and a mean person, when it comes to paramotor pilots.
They better not be mean to my paramotor pilots. I'll have to take care of something.
Mama Anderson right there. She takes care of us.
I mean, a lot of people could have really dogged me for being stupid and running into a bale of hay, but I really got nothing but positive support from everybody. I mean,
except for one.
Tuck a video out of it.
It's a really good community to be part of. Cheers.
Cheers.
Right.
Hold up.
Cheers. There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here
we go.
Raising glasses
The only one
high.
without the liquid.
Got my Red Wings wine glass. Yeah,
There we go.
I'll lie.
Down the hatch.
Good cheers. But and it's so true. I mean, I've had nothing but really amazing experiences. Even when I first started, I had a flat top, and no one said anything to me and was very kind to me when I first started flying, and gave me pointers and tips and helped me every time that I got the chance. I mean, nobody was ever negative to me at all. Matter of fact, I've never been around anybody negative around me, and I'm very happy that I'm in this group that I am. Of course, we Brian's real quick. Is this Brian's thing?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick for the cheers to Brian. May your lines not get tangled and we don't break ankles.
No tangled
Yeah,
lines,
man.
no broken
I
ankles.
can't watch this. It's so gross.
It's so gross.
Seen this,
I've
right?
seen it so many times. Yeah. Here it comes. All right. Looking good. Oh, wait. Overcorrect.
And I
Fame
bet
and fortune. There
So
we
you
go.
can actually see the ankle twisted there. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looked pretty gnarly.
Oh, yeah, there it is right there.
Right there.
Yep.
Completely dislocated a foot. The fibula stuck out of the leg. So yeah.
You didn't break the skin, right?
Yeah, it stuck out. It did a little peekaboo.
You did one worse than me, I think. And plates and screws?
Yeah, I got a plate with 5 screws on the fibula, and then another long screw going between the fibula and tibia, or tibula.
You might be done one worse than me there. I thought I had some of the worst shrapnel, but
Dude, it's 6 weeks later. Like today is 6 weeks after the accident. I got my cast cut off
I've got a walking boot on, and I'm almost walking on it already.
So I was back flying 4.5 months after I did mine.
Okay.
But the only thing else I'll say, don't rush it because you'll end up favoring that one.
Exactly.
You'll mess the other
Exactly.
one up.
That's right. Good advice, Harley. Yeah.
So
Let it heal.
you know, get someone to take you up with some wheels if you're jonesing that bad. But yeah, that's I mean, you'll probably be, if you do the PT. Yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah.
If you do the PT, you'll be back, but it takes about a year before you really get your strength back.
For those of us that are watching this, you can close your eyes. However, if you're on paratalk.org and listening to this audio, come on over to clearproptv.com. You can watch this live on YouTube and actually see what we are seeing. So clearproptv.com. Come on over, say hi to us. You can be in our chat, say hi to us. And you know what? This is probably the after show. All you got to do is check out the.
I have no idea.
Just go over to the notes over here and look at our room number on Zoom,
Yeah.
our password. Come on in and say hi to everyone.
Yeah.
Clear.
I just go with the flow.
So yeah, over on Podbean right now, it's streaming live. Actually, yeah, you should see it over on Podbean right now, streaming live, or hear it streaming live, and then it will go live and go to iTunes and the rest of the podcast after we are done with that show. Hey, look, it's Linda. She's the thumb. That's so cool.
No.
Oh, now we're Grandpa.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Guys.
unfortunately, Tommy texted me and said that his phone died, so he wasn't able to stay on anymore. But yeah, we went over to Sonic. New Heart Co. That's something that no one's heard about yet. That's in 2017. I had open heart surgery. They repaired a valve and dilated aorta root. Complication was a stroke, and I was laid out for an entire year. What actually helped me get better was in the hospital, I was kind of hungry for a hamburger or cheeseburger. I was searching for it, and guess what? Tucker Gott popped up.
Oh, wow. I never knew that. Sean.
And I'm like, what? Who's this guy, and what is he flying? I want to do this. So I actually worked really hard to get better and well enough to be able to fly a paramotor. And just recently was I able to go to Sonic and pick up something to eat.
That's it, man. That's it, brother. All you need is goals, man. You need drive and goals and direction in life.
That Sonic burger is going to clog up your.
I love Sonic.
That hospital.
I'm curious if there's.
I love Sonic.
If there's like a fast food place that somebody has influenced you, right? Because Anthony Vella did somewhere. I think it was Anthony Vella. You've done Sonic. Tucker did.
Oh, this is my favorite video. Yeah.
Anybody do Taco Bell yet?
Oh, Taco Bell? Oh no.
Actually, PPG Gorilla is talking about doing one, and it's a race back to the LZ before you have to go poo.
I believe. Oh no, I don't need. Oh, Taco Bell. Oh.
All right,
no.
you want to do something nobody's ever done? Go near Amarillo, Texas. Launch, fly into Amarillo, land, eat the 72-ounce steak.
Oh yeah,
and then take off after eating that steak.
You'll have to take off with a different.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Weight range. What was that?
Eat it all. You don't have to pay for it. It's free.
Oh,
exactly.
Was that the French fries that just fell out? Went into the.
Yep. Along with all the napkins stuck in his cage. Why am I not getting any penetration in the air? Why is there such a drag? There's 4 pounds of napkins hanging from your cage.
I think I just remember. I think it was Anthony Vella that flew to Walmart. There's some guy that flew to like a Napa Auto Parts or one of the auto parts places.
Oh, that was me.
Yeah.
There you go. And then
He's got his damn shirt on.
London Ivy and I did Burger King, but we never publicized that one.
That's cool. Yeah, this trip was actually supposed to go to Nick's Barbecue, but they were really, really packed, and you know, it's going to take a long time. I was going to be up there eating a rack of ribs. That was my goal.
Oh no! I can't wait to see that.
After saying
I will like send you $5 if you do that, Sean.
Hey, it's the perfect first date food, a rack of ribs.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Might as well be a first paramotor flight food.
I can't imagine eating anything. So kudos to everybody that went out, got some food, got on their paramotor, and tried to eat it at 25 miles an hour. It was like
There's a lot of wind going on. There's a lot more going on than what you think. I will say that.
Yeah.
I did the peanut butter and jelly challenge at one point and tried to make it in the air, and
Oh my
it's
gosh.
harder than it looks because nothing stays right in front of you. It's all blowing all over the place.
it doesn't.
You know, plastic silverware trying to, you know, it's messy. It's very messy. I'll say that.
I would say.
The
Do you
bread
guys take,
flops all over the place.
do you take like napkins up there with you, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
That
but
could get all kind of peanut
Yeah, they
butter
get
on your
all over the
hands
place.
and you're trying to do the controls and,
it's not.
you know.
Yeah.
Like no one.
This flying to get food is so yesterday, man. You seen the guy on the couch that was just like chilling and eating while he was flying on his couch, watching TV on the big
Oh, that's
screen.
a good one. I'm gonna have to show that one here.
Yeah, who wants to challenge that?
That freaking is awesome. I mean,
Come on,
somebody's
Harley.
trying to come
Come
up
on,
with some
Harley.
new way.
Come on, man.
He's
You
done
guys do that.
If you guys look that up,
things now.
He's
I
like,
had,
no couches, no.
No, it's called flying couch potato.
here, I'll pull it up.
Pretty cool. It wasn't motorized.
He wasn't even harnessed in.
No, he
No,
wasn't.
dude, with no chute, nothing. I mean, I guarantee you they put a lot of work into doing a hang test with
I've been
thing and
talking
balancing it.
to this guy. Yeah, I posted a comment on there and it went viral. So we've been texting back and forth.
Oh, we want him on our show, so
I
let's.
might be able to arrange that, Sean.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how good his
Yeah,
English is.
JP.
He's Turkish,
Do it.
but yeah, look at this.
Do it.
So if you click on his video on his channel, and then look at the comments, the first comment is mine with
JP, nice landing.
this is the
JP
wrong
Tulo,
video.
I know that guy.
Yeah, that's some amazing stuff right there.
There you go, man. Now JP is famous.
Yeah.
I got sponsored by Tucker Gott on a crash video, so I feel famous.
You are famous, Brian. You are.
Fame.
It's not necessarily the claim to fame that most people want, like Tucker's
There you
crash
go.
video, but hey, I'll take it.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's a start, you know.
Did he call you and interview you for that? I didn't
2,000
actually-
2,000 likes on that comment.
Heck yeah, brother.
So,
I've never had 2,000 likes on anything in my life.
yeah, same here.
We have 2,200
I know the feeling, Brian.
on your thing, Brian. Your crash video.
So he's
Yeah,
actually
it's-
got a reserve parachute in that backpack.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, I and he's able to not strap in, but see that bar right there? He buries himself into the couch by pushing off on that bar that's over the battery box. The battery is just a car battery in that box there that he's using to power the TV right here.
So if everything goes to hell, he can put that backpack on and jump off the couch.
No, it's not like that. No, he wouldn't put the
Reserve,
backpack
right?
on. It's a
Good
reserve
question.
parachute like we
Good
wear.
question.
And
Okay,
it's
so the reserve is attached physically to the couch.
to the couch. Yeah, he's got to stay on the
Okay.
couch. But if it were to get real bad, he could. You'll see when he wraps his knees around the bridle a little bit. to make it
Bill,
more
man.
stable. Where's it go? Here, see right here? See how he's got his legs inside where the couch is?
Yep.
So he can secure himself relatively good like that.
Yeah, that's
But
pretty.
he flies this site every day, and this site is known for its laminar, completely smooth, hands-off flying. So it's not like he went into this blind. I think the takeoff is the choppiest part, and that's why he's got his legs secured like that. But once he gets up, he just kind of kicks back, relax. He even takes his shoes off,
That's so
his
insane.
lounge shoes
Oh my
on.
gosh.
Cracks a Coke and has some chips. So,
Then some of his newer ones, he has like 4 people all
yeah,
around
playing backgammon and drinking tea and coffee.
He
Yep.
is like up there too. Right? I mean,
puts on his
he's like, gosh.
All right, guys, I gotta run, but this has been awesome. Thank you.
Harley,
Thank you,
thank you so
Harley.
much for coming, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
See you on the next one. Be safe.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Be good, buddy.
Oh, that was a very fun show.
He is awesome. I love him so much. He's just a great guy.
I would sit on the couch with him anytime. Just saying.
Brian, I just saw your text. You should reintroduce Harley. That was Harley. Okay. Too late now. Sorry, Brian. I didn't see the
Oh,
text.
I'd just say a big shout out, big thank you to Harley Milne for coming on the show. Harley's the
Yeah.
50X challenge guy that flew in all 50 states. It was really awesome of him to join us on the show tonight.
So what week do we not have a guest? I can bring my buddy on, and I can send Sean. I'll send you the video clip of him crashing.
Well, we still have Mark McElroy we invited him on for next
Right.
week. But Sean, you said that you got to figure that out because you're going to be on the road, whatever you call it.
Yeah, well, I'll be probably still driving back or something from the SIV course. Is it next week or no? Hold on. It's like when is this? So we're here on. Okay, so we're gonna have next week's 3rd, but the 10th one is one that we don't know who we're gonna have yet. So it's probably Shane. Who do you have? And Linda, who do you have?
Mark McElroy.
Is that what you get?
We already invited him. Yeah.
Who do you have, Shane? The same person? Mark?
Oh, Shane's got somebody else.
Oh,
No, so the one we're going, the guy that we're going, you and I are going to the SIV course with is the one that crashed out at the compound. He had his brakes stowed, and he was going.
We watched that
he was
video
going-
on here, didn't we?
What's that? I don't know if you guys seen it or not.
He was doing like super. Yeah, I think we watched it on here.
No.
I can throw it on then because I don't know who you're talking about.
He was doing really low, like almost foot drags with his brakes stowed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he was going over. He was accelerating over trees and then coming down and then accelerating, leveling out, and then going over another set of trees. But he had his brakes stowed, and when he came down, he was actually downwind and didn't have enough lift. So full throttle into the ground, tumbles like a tumbleweed.
Oh.
And actually, after he was all over and done with, he had to physically turn his motor off. It was still running.
Wow.
I think I remember that.
He ended up breaking his back. One of his vertebrae he broke, and then he ended up packing up his stuff and driving home, where his wife made him go to the emergency room.
Oh, nice.
Well, yeah, I don't think that's Mark.
No,
He didn't break his back to somebody else, right?
This guy is super nice. He's just, he doesn't think things through. Him and I have had this conversation. I actually flown with him that Melbourne Beach video that I did, flying the beach. He's in it, and again, he's 10 foot off the water and 150 yards from shore. Like, what happens if your motor fails? Oh, I have enough to make it back, I think. What do you mean you think? No, you need to know you can make it back. And not flying with flotation.
Mhm.
I love the guy to death. Just got done camping with him. I mean, we camp almost every trip together, and I just don't know why he doesn't.
This is what I have right now. I got this one. It's kind of like the one that
Take your screen share off. Can't see.
kind of the one that Leah Catullo uses.
Yeah, it's for like fishing and stuff.
It has the canister, the little canister. It opens up, goes poof.
Yeah, they're about $60 at
So you wear that underneath your harness?
Yeah, this one actually was a lot more than the $60 because this one has the 50 pounds of flotation, something or other. This is one of the most, what does it say? I don't remember what it is, but it's one of the biggest ones that you can buy. Right after this is the one that you can put on a paramotor. So it's a pretty big one. I need to strap in and pain test and let it explode and see what happens, see where it goes, and see how I feel inside the inside the paramotor, because I haven't done that yet. Hang test. Always important to do hang tests. So anyway, we are 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
In the show, man.
I would edit this part out of the show. Don't make the shows too long. I feel like that isn't good for whatever the algorithm, because most people are gonna watch it. You know.
Yeah, whenever we're rambling on, man, people are just gonna disconnect.
Tune out.
It seemed like we were doing pretty good until just right now. So real quick,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and wrap it up real quick. We're going to turn off the recording here. You guys, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that bell notification. Remember, clearproptv.com. That's where we are going to be doing our streaming. Now, it's going to be on Brian Walker's one day, but if you don't know when it's going to be, Waller. One day.
Waller.
You know, Clear Prop TV is going to be forwarded to someone else's channel. So Brian Waller in the mud, Linda's maybe one day, Jake, who knows? So remember, clearproptv.com. And if you don't want to watch our mugs, don't worry about it. Just go to paratalk.org and listen to us, because we are out there. Y'all, thank you very much. Have a great evening, and peace out, everyone. Woo, woo, woo. All right.
Bye, guys.
Audio is done. We got a new follower, and 5 people were watching it right now. So they're like, what happened? You're gone. And now we're going to go bye-bye to our live stream. Bye, live stream people. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, thumbs up.
Peace out.